the discourse around the online safety bill has remained as measured as your DMs.
Yeah.
Of course. With Peter Kyle saying that Nigel Farage is on the side of Jimmy Savile.
Well, do you know what? You don't ever want to be there, do you?
On Jimmy Savile's side?
Do you know, like, if you had to approach Jimmy Savile with the nuance that you have to approach, like, other news stories?
There's good arguments on all sides.
And you're like, he brought a lot of cash for the hospitals.
Wonderful charity.
Can we put that in?
Yeah. It's funny. But it was just like, something about it, like, there's been a lot of people being like, oh my God, like, well, that's obviously it's an outrageous thing to say. But we do say quite a lot that Labour do need to get down and dirty. They've been bringing a knife to a gunfight, and now they brought a fucking nuclear missile.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they brought that F-35. But do you know what's funny? They really doubled down on it. Yeah. So someone told me this morning, I could say, well, yeah, another newspaper journalist this morning said that Labour had actually been offering op-eds yesterday on, like, why Nigel Farage is a pedo. Can you believe that?
It's also the one thing as well, like, that's the thing. That's the thing, I guess, about libel or whatever. It's mud sticks. Like, it's such an outrageous thing to do because obviously, like, there's lots of reasons to oppose the online safety bill. For instance, if you want to go on the subreddit for beer, you have to submit your ID. You can't just log on to r/beer now, which is crazy.
Well,
like,
good. It's harmful.
Beer, just discussions of beer is harmful to children.
Yeah, very harmful.
Right. I'm not sure what...
You can't get onto the r/sexual assault Reddit either without... So, like, the subreddit that is for people who have experienced sexual assault, survivors of it, to go on and to talk about their experiences and meet a community, because a lot of the time people do find themselves, well, siphoned, or, you know, they don't feel that they can speak to the people in their immediate life. So they might go onto this subreddit to find other survivors who they can seek wisdom from. Not anymore, pal.
No.
Very harmful.
You need to tell Reddit who you are and that you've been sexually assaulted. Nigel I was outraged by being accused of being...
Would you not be angry?
Of course.
Would you not be angry? Do you know what I find interesting about this? So I don't know if you remember, but a couple of years ago, so Boris Johnson, I actually think it might have did it happen in the chamber? Anyway, Boris Johnson said that Keir Starmer had basically been in cahoots with Jimmy Savile.
Oh yeah, that was in PMQ.
Yeah, it was,
crazy.
wasn't it? Because obviously Keir Starmer was, I keep wanting to say he was head of DPD. Listen,
he was the CEO
he was
of
DPP. So head of the CPS. And there were, there were a few news articles at the time floating around that were accusations had been coming up from Surrey. I think there was a home in Staines where an accusation had come forward and that had crossed Keir Starmer's desk while he was head of the CPS, allegedly. And so Boris Johnson just went full throttle and was like, well, he loves Jimmy Savile.
Yes, and that was outrageous at the time.
Well, I do remember, for some reason, I was down there that day. I can't remember. I think we might have been covering something else. And I remember Starmer leaving Portcullis House, and it was actually quite frightening.
Oh, there was like a mob, wasn't there?
There was a mob, yeah. It was a real, they really leapt onto him, like people did. Because, look, controversial opinion, Jimmy Savile, bad. Pedos, bad. Being associated with them, bad.
Yeah. And it also it's the stink of the kind of bizarre, you know, like Jimmy Savile completely passed us by. Like, we look at him now and like, you let this man be the most famous man in the world. You
look at him and you go, who was in charge of that decision?
What the fuck are you talking about? He had a TV show, he worked with children. Like, you look at that man and you're like, who let this? But then you remember it's the BBC, so it makes sense. But then
he was wearing that big cigar. Smoking that big cigar. Sorry.
Yeah. But the kind of the echelons and the people that Savile like worked with and was seen in the company of, it's like, it stinks of like, or it smacks of every sort of like conspiratorial thought about like the establishment, and like it kind of leads into like, do you remember the disproven like Westminster child sex abuse thing.
Yes.
In the 80s.
I want to call him
Carl Beach.
Carl Beach, yeah.
Where like one just fantasist just lies about being like passed around like MPs and stuff like that.
I tell you what, Tom Watson never got over that. Because Tom Watson, who was, he had the role of that Angela Rayner has now, didn't he? Shadow to Jeremy Corbyn, and he'd backed Carl Beach. I think that, you know, that it ruined that MP's life. You know, it ruined his life.
One of them, his wife died before it came out that was completely untrue.
I think, didn't he pass or something like that though as well before it?
There was a few to be fair.
It was horrendous.
Just a complete fantasist who turned out to have been like a nonce himself. Like, it's completely just total fantasy. But that's why I think that's why the Savile line is so powerful. Is it's just because it smacks of you being in cahoots with like a web of like dark masters almost who are like putting British children into like unimaginable circumstances.
I don't know if this is coming out of it because it was a very odd person to deliver that line, Peter Keir. Yeah. I would say that he is normally a rather measured cabinet member. You know, he is getting that sort of line out of him would be rather extraordinary. You know, I think that we, you know, even in interviews that we've done with him, like we interviewed him when Alistair Strathern took the seat from Nadine Dorries. Do you remember that? And that was at a time where Labour weren't expected to win that, but they were sort of on the up again. You know, it was coming out of Boris Johnson era, and Labour was sort of, I think we've got a bit of momentum again. Yeah. And even then, the interview he gave was very measured about Nadine. He wasn't rude about her. He was very, you know.
Yeah.
So to hear him come out with this Savile line.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something going on, isn't there? Where there is a real pandering to the Telegraph and actually not to the Telegraph. That's not fair. There's a real pandering to the Sun.
Yep.
I mean, even that op-ed being offered to the Sun yesterday. I don't really understand the strategy of Labour at the moment. It kind of almost feels like they're sort of mice in milk fighting to make it cheese. You know,
mice in milk.
You like kind of drowning, you know, they're churning.
Did you just make that up?
Well, I adopted like, you know, the mice and butter thing. No?
Don't know that either.
No? Anyone know that one? No?
That's great.
Well, anyway,
that
okay.
was wonderful.
All right, thanks.
What an image.
Thank you. My degree cost £50,000 in English literature. Finally, some payoff. None of this is going to convince the minds of people who the Sun readers, right? The Sun reader is never going to vote for you. They might have done at the last election because they were very, very angry at the Conservatives, but faced with the prospect of the Reform Party, they are not going to vote for you. You look back at what Keir Starmer did with the echoing the Rivers of Blood speech from Enoch Powell, and we said at the time that smacked of a pandering to the sort of the racist and the xenophobic drivel that a lot of these tabloids like to pump out. And it was like he was trying to sort of corner a few of those voters or constituents. You're never ever going to be racist enough for these people, and you're never going to be xenophobic enough. So actually there's not really much point in bothering trying to get into that dialogue. And I think that's the same thing with the Jimmy Savile line. You know, you're never going to hate nonces enough these people, unless you hang them.
You've been watching a clip from the PoliticsJOE podcast. If you'd like to watch the rest, please head to patreon.com/PoliticsJOE. It's the only place you can watch podcast episodes in full for as little as £4 a month. You get access to the video podcast as well as the group chat, and you get first access to live event tickets, the first of which is happening in just over a week's time. We're very excited. It's sold out in 4 minutes. We're very excited to have a beer, have a chat, have a natter with all of you. So we will see you then, £4 a month, patreon.com/PoliticsJOE.